Hey there, you beautiful badass. Welcome to the Carrie Croft Show. I'm your host, Carrie Croft, delivering you stories that get you pumped up and feeling like the unstoppable savage that you are. So grab your coffee, put on your game face, and let's do this thing, baby. Dude, do you remember when I used to wear that nylon tracksuit to the studio almost every day and thought I was hot shit and no one told me I looked like Run DMC?
Do you remember when I was in my 20s dating that old man and everyone thought I was a sugar baby, but there wasn't even sugar, so it turns out I was just a baby?
Do you remember when we had shitty hair?
Sure do. But at least that's something we never have to worry about again, thanks to Mia.
The day Mia cut my hair for the first time, I realized how rough things used to be.
Listen, I know. And now she and Jake Turner have this fantastic luxury salon and scalp spa called Headspace in Upper Arlington. Our favorite celebrity hairstylist is doing the most for Columbus.
Girl, I did one scalp treatment and I would let Jake put his hands on my head anytime he wanted.
And I might add, your hair is looking healthy.
I love massages, but honestly, this might be even better. Plus, it has so many proven benefits for my hair health. I love how convenient the location of her salon is because no one styles like Miss Mia.
Trust us, we know what bad looks like.
Use code Carrie for 20% off your first visit with Miss Mia Santiago. Mark Ritz, welcome to the Carrie Croft Show.
Thank you for having me.
This has been long in the making.
Yeah.
You know, I thought, will this ever happen? Will our eyes ever lock in real life?
Well,
and here we are.
Here we are.
So just to tee everybody up on how we connected, it's like one lily pad leads to the other. I have a guy named Wayne Lewis come on. He owns 614 Media Group. He and I hit it off. He leaves. He writes me about a week later. He says on DM, did you see this story? You got to get this guy on your show. Like the government just shut them down. And so I immediately reach out thinking, you probably have bigger fish to fry, right? When the government's on your ass. And so you obliged kindly for a FaceTime. And as soon as we got on FaceTime, I was like, I have to get this guy on the show. What a dynamic, smart, down-to-earth dude, and right in my backyard. So then it became like a thing. I'm like, he's on my radar. And you're like, give me some time. I'm dealing with the government, and then we'll make it happen. And so now here we are, finally, months later.
Yep.
Perseverance, right?
Absolutely.
So how are you? You look good. You feeling good?
Yeah, feeling great. I mean, the shutdown was awful. You know, I mean, you've been in business 3.5, 4 years, and then somebody comes in and basically just changes their mind on how we're making the product, turns the lights off. You got to make some really difficult decisions. But, you know, the number one focus was just how do we get reopened as quickly as possible? And we did it. I mean, it took 2.5 months and reopened the end of April, and here we are. We are literally back to being where we were when we left off.
Yeah, and I want to dig pretty deep into that, but let's start with how you became, like you started at Costco, and you talked about this on FaceTime too. You're like, Costco was pivotal for me to learn the intricacies of how to run a business, right? So like from a long time ago, it was kind of festering in your mind on how to, whether you knew it or not, how to run a business. So you had Costco and then you started dabbling. So let's start with that. So when you started your job at Costco, what did you do? What was your entry level position?
I was responsible for putting rotisserie chickens in the oven.
See, anything's possible, right? You start somewhere.
Yep.
And that's funny. It had to do with meat still.
Yeah. Isn't that, never really thought about that. That is really cool, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I mean, look, growing up, I just was kind of the kid that always got in trouble in school. Didn't really ever get into like the whole, you know, illegal substance abuse, drugs. You know, a lot of the people I hung out with ran around and did that. But I just kind of was this rebel. And I think that's always been instilled in me. And I always had this thought that like, no matter what happens, I'm going to start a business. I'm going to start something for myself. And I think that kind of made me a bad student in high school, you know, just kind of pushing back with teachers and whatnot. And so I was a baseball player. That was the only thing that got me into college. Graduated 1.8, but, you know, some small school took me on. Didn't stay there for a very long time. And when I left college, I ended up working at Costco. And it was interesting because I had never really had like a serious job. And it kind of definitely matured me up a little bit. Again, still had this mantra that like, no matter what happens, like I'm gonna start something. But it was stability for me. And when I moved out of the deli where I was loading chickens, I got into membership. And that's really where my life and my mindset changed. I realized I was really good at sales and selling memberships, and I got into the numbers, and I had access to a computer in front of me, and I would just always be looking at things like that. And then I started to ask questions on how membership and everything impacts business. And that was it. I mean, that gave me all the passion for business that I have today.
That gave you the juice, right? So go back, because you mentioned being a rebel. And when I read your form, I was like, yeah, this guy, I love him, because I feel like I was the same way, where you always had this innate way of marching to your own drum, even at such a young age. So one of the things you mentioned that I'm sure people probably don't know is you were in the finals of like the poker. Like, what is that? Like, how did you do that when you're underage? How do you get in the world poker tournament and actually place or whatever?
You play online under somebody else's name. So I was playing under an account, my mom's boyfriend's account, and there was like a tournament of like 12,000 people, and you basically, one person wins and you win a seat at the World Series of Poker. And so I won that, and then you had the option to basically take a $12,000 payout, or you can go and play in the World Series of Poker. Obviously, was not of age, so I took the payout, and that was like the first time I ever got my hand on like a decent like amount of money. And I was really into gambling at that point, and that also gave me a really interesting perspective on money, because I got really good at gambling, but I didn't love it. Like, I started to really hate it. Like, it took a lot of time sitting at a poker table. I think losing money, it's so much more memorable when you lose. You don't even remember like a lot of your wins. And so it really became this toxic relationship with money. And business is the opposite, right? Like, you can work so hard and you're gonna make money. You can teach yourself whatever you want and you can make money from it. You can't really lose money. On the investing side you can, but that's when I just like, business was the reason I completely gave up gambling.
Because you saw the toxicity, and this was going nowhere fast. How did you get so good at it though? Is that what you did in high school and when you were supposed to be studying? When
I was actually working at Costco, like the first couple of years, like I remember there was a good like 6-month period where I didn't ever look at the amount of a paycheck coming in, because I would just leave work and I would go play poker in these underground places around here. And I would win more than I would lose. That's the goal. But again, like, it wasn't like a great lifestyle. But that's how I like made most of my money as a kid.
That's wild. But good for you for having the self-awareness to be like, this is a slippery slope. I should probably maybe move this into a more healthy relationship with something else. So then you also got arrested for making chemical bombs, which I love that. I mean, I made bombs too, but not chemical bombs. I made bombs with eggs and fireworks and put them in mailboxes, and I didn't get arrested. Yeah. But still, kind of the mindset. Yeah,
it's just running around at a young age, immature, doing things in the middle of the night that you shouldn't be doing. And it's the immaturity in everything in my life when I was young still lives on today. It's just how I've channeled it and what I've turned it into. I think I've just turned those things into something a lot more positive.
Yeah. So when you got into membership at Costco and you got the juice, then what? You're like, they're making all and that drives you crazy too. You're like, I'm working for the man. Yeah. Look at all this money they're making. How do I carve out a space for myself in my life that I'm the man?
Well, it's interesting because that mind set of becoming obsessed with business in that first scenario, that it took from that moment 10 years until I started really my own business. Actually, it would have been 8 years because the first business I started failed. But again, I was like young. I wasn't necessarily like ready to start a business, I don't think. I would be listening to tons of podcasts, right? But never taking action. I was one of those people, and I know that there's many of those out there. So there is that kind of lag window. It's okay. You should absolutely get started as soon as you can, but it is okay if you've been thinking about it for 4 or 5 years, because I literally thought about it for 8 before I actually took action.
But this might be your sign
Yeah,
to take action.
for sure. And so I started my first business, and it was called ritzfit.com.
Is this the one that failed? That you,
Yeah.
I was going to say we can't glaze over that. We got to talk about this. What happened? What'd you learn?
Yeah, this is definitely something you can't glaze over, because if it wasn't for RitzFit, I would not be in the position I'm in today. Carnivore Snax wouldn't be as successful as it is today. But what it was is I wanted to start this like online farmers market and charge people membership fees, right? So here I am trying to bring Costco model into this, but support very small boutique style businesses that have, cleaner option products. So I built this team of ingredient experts that would vet these products and approve them, right? So that's kind of what your membership fee pays for. You don't have to think about the ingredients on the back of thing or where it came from. Like, we did all that work. And we put it onto just an e-commerce platform. It was an e-commerce business. And then people paid me, I think we were charging around $100 for a membership. And then they would get access to about, in between like 10 and 20 different items at any time. And we would negotiate the best prices that we possibly could for these small boutique style businesses. And then, again, good prices for the members. The cool part about that, even though it never took off and didn't really sell a lot of memberships or sell a ton of product, people loved what the concept was, including the founders of these products, right? I'm telling their story. This is actually when I had a podcast called the No Diet Podcast. Part of the whole funnel to get these products on would be reach out, give them value, say, hey, come on my podcast. I want to tell your story. At the end of that story, I would ask if they'd be interested in having their product on and having their product kind of investigated and looked at by these ingredient specialists. And over that time, I probably built a good relationship with about 200 different founders of these brands. As I noticed, RitzFit wasn't taking off and it was putting some pressure on the family and finances, and I was investing a lot of money. The one part that worked was email marketing. Like, anytime I sent an email, that was the only time I really drove any revenue into the business. And I noticed something. In my inbox, I was not getting emails from some of my favorite brands, my friends who had more successful e-commerce businesses than me. These were all the people that I met through trying to get their products on the website. And so I just reached out to them one day and said, hey, let me do email for you for free for a month and see how much revenue I could drive. And long story short, before you knew it, I had like 8 or 9 clients paying me more money than I had ever made at one single time. And I left Costco.
That's so smart.
So,
you're pay, and the big there's lessons there, and one that's just like a neon light is pay attention.
yeah.
And for people out there who, because starting something is so scary in and of itself, we just sat and talked about how people will stew over it for years and maybe never take action, right? So it's scary enough to start. And then when you do start, I'll be damned if I have to pivot.
Yeah.
So being able to look at this and go, look, you're not married to this idea the way that you started it the rest of your career. You actually have to be looking at the warts, the moles, calling your baby ugly, and know you have to shimmy.
Yeah.
And the more you can look and pivot quickly, next thing you know, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Right? If you were not capable of being agile and astute and you didn't pay attention,
Yep.
it would have gone down in flames.
100%.
You'd be back at Costco with those chickens.
I would be. I absolutely would be.
What do you do, or what did you do for email journeys? Did you do like MailChimp? How do you do it today?
Yeah. So, Klaviyo is the new software that really is the leader in all of e-commerce email marketing. But yeah, I worked in MailChimp. I worked in a lot of whatever they had. I came in and I just kind of knew. It was interesting because I was their customer. I wasn't a copywriter. So like if you're like, well, I can't really write or I can't do this, like now you're just making another excuse to not get started or get into it. I was horrible. I mean, I could barely tell you. There are times when I'm like, does a period go here? And but what their audience liked is that I think it just felt like them because I was their customer. I wasn't just some copywriter that they hired to come in and do it. And it just really worked. So yeah. And drove tons of revenue for these companies. Email's an unbelievable source, by the way. I mean, you don't have to, you've already acquired these people. You've got their email. You don't have to pay to acquire them, right? Through any of these paid media channels like Meta and all that. If you continue to sell to your customers, that's where your most profitable transaction's coming from. That's where the attention is. I mean, you can't put attention away from that. So many companies just go heavy on these paid media channels because it's a machine.
And so many people go towards what's sexy or what's perceivably the it in thing. And like email feels mundane. It feels like, oh, is it passe? Are we still doing email? And you're like, yep, I think. Yeah. Oh, are we? We are. We is.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you have the 8 or 9 clients, and then what's next? Yep. How did that get you? Like, what was the next step to get closer to Carnivore Snax?
Well, the stress of going to bed every night, wondering if all 9 people were happy with what I was doing, was too much. The money wasn't worth it. There'll be weeks where I work primarily on 4 accounts, and like the other 5, I'm like, I mean, they're paying me good money. Like I don't know if I would pay for this amount of time, right? So I wanted to really scale back the amount, but I was like, I don't want to give up all this money that I'm making. So there was 3 companies out of the 9 that were ready to kind of hire a director of e-commerce. And so just like that, I let go of the other clients, and I was basically a full-time director of e-commerce for 3 different companies. And so that was the next stage of my career as it relates to e-commerce. Because when you start an email, you kind of get forced to learn all the angles because you got to plug all of the angles in. You got to plug different softwares. You got to plug different strategies. It's all part of e-commerce. And so I knew so much more than just email. And my ability to sell, and my ability to, with numbers and business, it was a good fit to move into a director of e-commerce role. But I dealt with a lot of the same issue. It's just like when you have multiple focuses, you just wonder, are you given everything you possibly can to each individual? And during that time was when my co-founder, whose name is Sylvia, who actually created the product and the recipe, she had met me through RitzFit. Again, coming back to RitzFit, without it, like RitzFit is what honestly is a huge part of Carnivore Snax. She reached out and was like, hey, I think I landed on a product. Do you know anybody who can make a website? And I was like, yeah, I probably know somebody. I was like, also, like, you should send me some product. Because her and I were super passionate about meat. When I was running the podcast, I had her come on to co-host because she was doing the carnivore diet for 3 years. Literally just meat, salt, and water. That's all she did for 3 years. And it cured a lot of her ailments. And so we shared this same passion for meat. And when she sent me the product, I was like, holy shit. This is something very different than I've ever experienced in terms of a texture, in terms of taste. Like, she's got something really cool here. And what I recognized that she had, that RitzFit didn't have, was the 3 years of storytelling about carnivore. And what did that do? That built an audience. RitzFit launched as a cool idea to crickets. I don't really think she didn't realize she was doing this, right? She just was telling her story. But I think this is something for people to learn. If you want to start a company, and you want it to be successful, you want it to have the best chance of being successful right now, do what you love for free for people, build that audience, and then launch a product. Mm-hmm. And so when I recognized she had the audience, I said, I was like, you got to let me be a partner because this product is very good. I can blow it up. And that is how we ended up partnering.
Was she like, yes, right away, or did it take her a minute to sort of share the baby?
No,
That's great. She's smart. So you know how some people are, like it can be a little, but she probably saw the opportunity. She's like, this is an operational, Jedi we've got going on over here.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, you having a great product is very key.
Yeah.
But also building a business there's a product and there's a business. And most of the time, one person is not good at one side of that, right? And so if you can have somebody that's really good on the business side and really good on the product side, who's obsessed with the quality and who's obsessed with optimizing it and who can teach people to make it, then the person who's responsible for the business can just go hard. And then that's what happened. I mean, it took some time to obviously get the Kickstarter going, but I'm sure that'll be the next step we talk about.
Is that what you did? You did Kickstarter?
We did, yeah.
I think this is an apropos time to try.
Yeah.
Right?
Go for it.
So I got this in the mail. First of all, I will say, got these very quickly.
Good.
Very streamlined, easy user experience,
Good.
which I'm sure has a lot to do with you and your Jedi mind tricks.
It should just really smell like meat and salt.
Just meat and salt.
That's it.
This is what it says. Just meat and salt. Would you like a bite, or are you?
I mean,
are you intermittent fasting right now?
No.
And you've had plenty.
Plenty of caffeine and carnivore
It feels
snacks.
good. I like the moisture that I'm feeling.
Yeah, so you just got about 80% fat in that bite.
Oh, but that's good.
But that should melt in your mouth, and that's what should give it flavor as well.
That's good.
But if you
Here's
can get
the meat.
Yeah, if you can get a piece that's nice
Hold
and
on.
marbled, like,
Oh yeah.
then you should, you should get some. You got a crunchy one.
I like the crunch.
Yeah. Some of them are more pastry-like, and some of them are more crunchy. This is a little bit.
I wouldn't have said pastry, but
Is it
Now that
melting
you
in
say
your
that,
mouth a little bit? All right, good.
this is good.
Yeah. And this, I brought you a real fresh batch too. That came out yesterday.
Let's try.
Yeah.
Is this why it's Joe Rogan's favorite snack?
Joe Rogan is obsessed with the ribeye. Like,
How did you just send it to him? Or how did you?
I did. Yeah. I could definitely tell the story of how we connected. That's a pretty cool one.
I'm sure. Joe. I can see him liking this because I know him so well. He's a meat guy.
Yes, he is. I think every January he does the carnivore challenge.
See, my husband's doing some weird carnivore thing right now where he's like eating steak all the time.
Oh, I love it.
Is that what you do all the time?
No.
Look at this.
Yeah, there you go.
This is prime.
Yeah.
Ribeye, only 2 ingredients, 100% grass-fed and finished beef.
Mm-hmm.
Raised in the USA.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Little ASMR.
Yeah.
I love it's like crispy. It is, I will say, it's unlike any meat product like this I've ever had.
Yeah.
It's not like tear it apart.
Right.
God, it's good.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. You can kill a bag pretty quickly for sure. The airy texture is kind of what we're after, especially with the ribeye. So.
I wonder, now see, I'm weird. I could like dip that in something too. I don't know.
Oh, for sure.
Like barbecue sauce or something.
Yep.
Mark, that's good.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's all credit to Sylvia on creating
Sylvia,
a great product.
That
there.
is some good tasting meat there. Okay. Sorry, I got us
No, it's all right.
off track. Okay. So next step. So now you're a partner. And then talk a little bit about how different that felt though, because you had grinded doing these email lists. And then, you grinded being the director of e-commerce. I'm sure you gave it your all, but it wasn't yours.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's really cool to be one of the people at the helm for a product that has become so much more than a product, and it really shows through. And we'll really get there in the shutdown when we tell the shutdown story. This brand, all the cliches around brand, it's like if you can build a powerful brand, it contributes to the moat that defends your product and your business from competitors coming in. This brand is so powerful. The tagline that I created, say yes to meat. Why are we making this product? Well, meat is being wrongfully vilified, and it's been being wrongfully vilified for a long time, too long. So we, as a company, are a voice for meat during a time when it's being wrongfully vilified. And we have rallied troops, customers, people around this message that meat is not bad, right? And in order to feel extremely confident when you get into a conversation or you're debating about meat and why it's not bad, right? Because you got people that say, hey, it's not good for you, and also, hey, it's not good for the environment. If you want to be able to say yes to meat, Carnivore Snax gives you the reasons to do that because we source only from regenerative farmers. So regenerative agriculture is restoring the lands. No more can you argue with the fact that it's the cow's fault. It's agriculture's fault. Industrial agriculture is bad. We can all agree on that. But if you're practicing regenerative agriculture, you're creating paddocks on your ranch, and you're raising livestock within these paddocks, and you are consciously rotating them, and you're moving these paddocks, right? So we're not over trampling single areas on your ranch. You are restoring the soil because as they trample over the soil, they're loosening it up, right? So now when it rains, rain can get into the soil instead of having pure runoff. You can find some really great videos. White Oak Pastures has a really good visualization of this. And you can eliminate the use of pesticides by using nature, right? So you see a lot of these farms, they'll end up going to get goats. Goats eat the stuff that you're really trying to kill, all the weeds and all the things that encroach on your ranch. And so that's what we do. We vet very strictly on the farms that we source from. We're a very pro-America brand. Keep 100% of the supply chain here. If you are familiar with any of our content, it can teeter politically. So if you're not into that, it's okay. Most people, a lot of it is very funny. But yes, very pro-America, regenerative agriculture. We're giving people the voice and the confidence to basically defend meat, and that's what our community is.
Where did this passion for meat come from?
The passion comes from the bioavailability in its nutrition. Like, it is one of the most nutrient dense foods on the planet. We should not be telling people to not eat it.
Correct. I agree with that. But like you said, you were passionate about meat before this too. Like,
Yeah.
you just always have been on that train.
Because I've always been, after, I guess probably somewhere around the middle time of my career in Costco, I did get into a lot of nutrition and working out and stuff right before I launched Ritz Fit. And so it's just when you look at the macronutrients and then you dig into the bioavailability of the nutrients that are in meat, and what we mean by bioavailable is just like it's a better source of protein than, other foods that have protein in it. Your body is able to absorb more. It's a better source. It just felt wrong to be telling people not to eat it. It felt wrong to be telling people that it's not good for you. And that's where we got the passion. I met somebody in my career who we no longer really talk anymore. Back in 2020, a lot of politics happened, and I think that they kind of drove us apart, sadly. But he was a filmmaker, did a lot of different documentaries. He ended up being a mentor for me over the course of about 2 or 3 years. His name's James Conley. And I want to reconnect with him at some point. But he was really the one that instilled that passion because he started to share with me a lot of the history of saturated fat, how that got demonized, and just how we kind of got to where we are now as it relates to wrongful marketing, gimmicky marketing, sugar problems, how sugar exploded, right? Cheap foods, all of that. That made me passionate about meat even more. And now chemicals, like labs trying to, if people are trying to make fake meat, I think that says a lot about meat.
What's that burger
Impossible
called? The
burger.
Impossible Burger.
People fiend meat, their bodies. I mean, we're humans, man.
I'm glad I can just have a burger and not really worry. If you want a burger, eat a burger, baby.
Sure.
Ready to elevate your self-care game? Boss Gal Beauty Bar is a modern med spa offering everything from cosmetic injectables, lasers and microneedling, to medical-grade facials and skincare. Conveniently located in Clintonville, Grandview, Powell, and Easton, making self-care a priority has never been easier. Use code CROFT for $25 off your first visit.
So the passion for meat basically turned into this business that Sylvia and I started, legally opened the entity in 2019. And then a lot of planning, a lot of just, aspirations, goals, whatever. We launched the Kickstarter April of 2020. And we did very well. We did $200,000 between the 30-day campaign period and some post-purchase efforts after the campaign. And
how many people contributed to that $200,000?
Man, I don't know that number off the top of my head. I want to say we probably had over 1,000 pledges, I'm sure. We had some big pledges as well. But how we did it was we really leaned on her audience, literally just threw a page out there to collect emails saying, hey, we're launching something pretty wild, pretty good. And we would send out product to all of the big influencers in the carnivore space. And they'd be like, holy shit, like this is amazing. And they would get on Instagram and they'd be like, hey, go to this page, be the first to try it. They're doing a Kickstarter, it's launching soon. And we had thousands of people on this list. And then I tried to run some Facebook ads for the first time ever using that audience. You can run a lookalike audience and it goes out and it finds people that are very similar to that. I think the landscape's changed a little bit since then. But so we added a whole bunch of emails for like a quarter a piece running ads. And then at the time we launched, that's what Kickstarter's about. You just have to have a big old list and you're going to kill it.
Yeah.
And so that gave us some money to get started.
And then what?
And then we got here we were sitting with all this money and we're like, well, I guess we got to make it. We had to figure out how to make it all. So yeah, we got some small little dehydrators and she started, coming up with the plan to make the product. She was working alongside her aunt. Her aunt was making a similar product in the pet space. And so we had like no overhead. She was just sharing some space in there. And we were giving her aunt like a few $100 a month. And she started making all this product. It took a long time. Probably took her like a month and a half or 2 months. And we got all the product delivered by November of 2020. And so we launched the website in December. And very quickly, in 7 months, we did $1 million. And she was making it by herself. And finally, she just turned to me and said, I can't do this anymore. And I said, all right, we're going to need a warehouse. And you got to decide, is it going to be in Arizona where she was making the product? By the way, we had never even like really met like face to face. We were just building this business like through Instagram and chat. And I don't know. I think she found some comfort in recognizing that there's a business side to this and there's a business side to manufacturing. And she said, I'll come out to you. And so I started looking for a warehouse and found one in Lewis Center, Ohio, a little over 12,000 square foot. Little did we know it would take about 5 months to get it all permitted and open. Very scary moment. So we were shut down for 5 months. And we reopened the business January of 2022.
Was there ever, so you were thinking in your head, if Sylvia doesn't say, I'll come to you, you got to go to her. Or was that not going to be a situation?
No, it was just going to be me continuing to build the business on the digital side while she figured out all the manufacturing.
Okay. Yeah. Smart. Hey, smart move. Sylvia, good girl. I would have done the same thing. She's like, hell no. Oh my God. Okay. So by the way, let's give a shout out to the family component of your life too, because in the midst of all of this, I'm certain, I don't know you well yet, but I'm certain this became somewhat of an obsession, as it does, right, with everyone that's building something. So where does the wifey and the kiddos play? And like, how is your wife? What's her personality, and how does she sort of handle the inevitable trappings of being married? I mean, I know there's amazing parts of being married to you, but I promise if she and I had a couple cocktails and we were hanging out, she'd be like, yeah, I mean, this is because. Again, I was on this side. I was the business owner, and my husband has expressed his like, what the hell, does it ever turn off? Does your faucet turn off? So what's her sort of like role in all of this?
That's insane that you just like everything you just said. Like you pretty much know my wife. Mm-hmm. She's the opposite for me. She prefers safe. She really would have preferred that we just continue to work at Costco. Like, nobody needs to become extremely wealthy. Like, we just need to have a secure job and benefits and very traditional. That's what she's okay with. Unfortunately, I'm just not okay with that. Mm-hmm. And so has it caused issues over the years? It has. But I think obviously the love for one another we have trumps that all the time. It's really funny. Like, we don't get into arguments. We just like something happens and like I'll walk downstairs and say, hey, like, what are we having for dinner? Like, that is how we just handle every bit.
Typical marriage, right?
For sure. But holy moly, man, it is starting Ritz Fit, losing all the money we did there. There are times where she questioned my ability to make these kind of dreams become a reality. But I think deep down, I think she just kind of knew that the relentlessness that I had, she might not say this out loud. I think she might have knew like one day I'll figure it out, just like I kind of thought. And look, it's very stressful to be the CEO of this company. And it comes with some challenges in the family life.
Yeah, but you know what? I think if they're being really honest, and I'm saying they, meaning my husband's name's Brady, and he's he's a teacher, like again, doesn't need a lot, would never take a risk, right? But I think they think it's kind of like, they kind of like it, because and again, there can be stressful parts too, but it's like, you never know, like there's excitement there, or there's sort of like you never know what's going to happen, and there's always something. Yeah. Like once you believe, you're like, okay, wait, he's on to something. Like he knows what he's doing. I think that clicked for Brady too.
Sure.
And now it's different.
Yeah.
He's kind of a different participant now. Yeah. Whereas before he's like, kind of kicking rocks. Now he's like, okay, what do we got? This is kind of exciting.
For sure.
And what about your kids?
My kids, 2 boys. One's 8, one's 4, and they love Carnivore Snax. They all say that they're going to work for Carnivore Snax. I don't think they even know exactly what that means, but we brought them in one day and let them put some meat in bags, and that's what they think they're going to be doing for a living, which is fine. We will use their help when they get there. But they're great kids, very much more like me in terms of their personalities. And now, I mean, Nicole, my wife, she works for us. She left Costco.
There you go.
That was a scary decision. And then, it still is a scary decision, because look what happened a few months ago with the shutdown.
I know, but another smart move, though. I mean, why not put all of your cards into what you're trying to do to move your ball forward, as opposed to working for the man,
Agreed.
Right?
Yep.
So speaking of the shutdown.
Yep.
What the fuck?
I know. Unbelievable. Just unreal. We operated, as I said, reopened in 2022 very smoothly all the way up until that time. When we first opened the warehouse too, I connected with all the regulators. And my first phone call was to the USDA. And they straight up told me that we do not need to have a grant of inspection from them, meaning regulated by the USDA, if we are only selling direct to consumer. Confirmed this with many other manufacturers. They said, yes, true. However, contact your local and state regulators because it may be different. And so we contacted the Ohio Department of Agriculture and the Health Department. And at the time, we were basically too small to be regulated by them. However, shared all the information we needed to share with them about our practices, right? And Health Department, they didn't want nothing to do with us. They just really deal with like retail fronts and restaurants and that kind of stuff. So we operate. Nobody says nothing. Fast forward, end of February, they show up and they basically take a look at everything that we have going. And to me, I perceived it, and many others did, they were very surprised with just how everything was. Like, we're very, very, very sanitary, very clean. Look, I poached my whole team from Costco. The culture there is, I mean, if you walk through Costco, well, it doesn't look like Sam's Club. All right. So we know what we're supposed to be doing. And they came in and basically the last thing they wanted to look at was what does the cook cycle look like? And for them, it wasn't to standard, right? It wasn't compliant with a published research study. In the jerky space, you have to be using a scientifically backed research study. And hitting something called lethality, which is something that we are very aware of and something that we did because we're trying to make a safe product. However, if you don't basically apply a scientifically backed research study after you hit what's called lethality, then it's not compliant. And again, we shared all this up front, but nobody said nothing. So they shut us down and they said, until you can show us that you are using a study, then you can't sell the product anymore. And you have to do a recall of everything you've ever made. And I said, okay, well, we've got thousands of units that are right here that you're threatening to throw away. However, I'm going to go pay for our own scientifically backed research study to prove to you that this is safe. And they were having none of that. They straight up said, nope, here's the date. We're coming in. You're going to have everybody. We're going to have somebody watch you do this. We're going to have you slice open each individual bag. Thousands. This took hours. With a box cutter. Just slice it down the middle. Put it all into a trash can. And pour bleach all over it. I'm saying, so we're complying. We're not selling our product. We've shut down our business. I just laid off 20 people. And we have no opportunity to even go out and prove that what is sitting in our warehouse is safe for consumption. And we had already spoke with scientists before, and they had given us the reasons as to why this is safe. However, the problem that we ran into is that the USDA has always wanted to consider us. And when we talk about USDA, just know that the ODA, the Ohio Department of Agriculture, really just leans into all their same regulations. They've just always considered us a jerky product. And look, I mean, you've tried it. We've really argued the fact that this is actually a new category and this is a meat chip. And with that being said, it's very different. So there's a different reason as to why these things are safe for consumption. And by the way, that has everything to do with the surface area of our product. Okay? So there's science that backs it and that shows it. But because no regulators are willing to basically put us outside of jerky standard guidelines, because it's being dehydrated, right? That's what jerky does, is dehydrated. It's a no. So our science doesn't work. And so here we have to go back to the drawing board and we have to find a research study, a back study. And we have to figure out how the hell are we going to make this as good? Like, we're freaking out. I mean, I'm coming into work every day at 4 a.m, doing things that I don't do. Sitting around a table, trying to just figure out what legal teams do we need to have to represent us? How are we planning to do R&D? We have a bunch of raw meat in here. We have to cook it. It's thousands of dollars to test, to prove. Like, we're about to lose a ton of money. Now, granted, we've been very successful up to the shutdown. We had a very fighting chance because of how successful and how profitable the business had been up to that point. But we figured it out. It took 2.5 months. Fully compliant. Found a study that worked. Iterated on that study. Because once you've done what the study asks, that's then when you're allowed to go and be creative with your own recipe. Okay? So there's 2 steps you hit, and then you do what you want. Which kind of sucks too, because it does take a little bit of the innovation away. Especially when, regulators aren't willing to hear your even... By the way, we paid well over $20,000 for that scientific research study, and it was just a no. I mean, we burned it. We basically burned that cash. But yeah, it just relentlessness. We ended up making the product, and in the beginning, when we first started shipping it, I would say it was about like a 7 out of 10 as it relates to the original condition of the product. But there were a couple things that really clicked over the last 8 weeks. And I would say 99 out of 100 customers would never tell the difference. It's just as good. We figured it out. And I think it gives us a little bit more of it gives us more of a moat. We went through all that. We invested in research study. We invested in all this R&D. We have our own infrastructure. We do our own manufacturing. We control all of the customer experience. These are things that most jerky brands and meat snack brands don't do. They'll go to a co-packer or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, that was it. It was a long road back.
That put some hair on your chest.
Oh, yeah.
What was that day like when you were actually cutting the meat and putting bleach on it?
It was awful. And they just sit there and they watch.
How many of them were there watching?
One from the ODA, but they bring somebody they bring a bodyguard in that has to be around them during this time because they know, it's a very emotional time. There was a lot of labor that went into that, a lot of raw meat. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And yeah, I mean, our whole team's just sitting there after they made all this product and they're just cutting it. It just was not a good moment, but a moment that woke the beast because this is how you found us. I shared the story on Twitter, and in less than, 16 hours, it was up to 800,000 views, impressions, almost 1 million. Robert Kennedy Jr. reached out asking, how do I help? It was somewhat, there are things that I appreciate that we went through with them, and this is in hindsight. We were obviously emotional during the time, but there was definite overreach. And I think the thing that pisses me off more than anything, and many people who've been through the same scenario would share the same sentiment, the lack of help and support that you get from them in a time of darkness to bring a business back that employs people in their state. It's mind-boggling. It's like they don't want you to succeed. They want the little man out. There's no passion. I remember sitting on a Zoom call with these guys. By the way, nobody knew who regulated us at that point. Nobody wanted to deal with the situation. I have the ODA and the health department on a Zoom call, and they are arguing back and forth in front of me about, hey, this is going to be in your jurisdiction. Hey, nah, I think this is in your jurisdiction. And at that point, I'm interrupting them, excuse me, but someone needs to step up and regulate because we can't open until you guys decide this. And this is why y'all listened to us 2 years ago when we moved in and just said, yep, what you're doing is okay. Until 2 years later, you just show up and say you're not. So Yeah, just I think a lack of some of the information on their side, and
Well, it's scary. It's scary to think
yeah,
that they can, these are this is the organization that's like trying to regulate things that have such power over your livelihood.
Yeah.
And back to what you said about waking the beast, and it is how you and I are sitting here today. And I think that Twitter that you put out, there's two parts to that, in my opinion. It's a testament, first of all, to your brand and the community that you've built and the people that rallied around you in a time that you needed it.
Yeah.
But then secondly, it's also a testament to how broken some of these government agencies are.
Yeah.
And I think people are calling bullshit on that.
for sure.
There's so much there that needs to be fixed, and it wasn't a great thing that happened to you guys, but you'd made it a great thing.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, look, there's things that I say, hey, like we were wrong on, and I just think that a lot of that stemmed from the lack of clarity that we got from these regulators early on when we opened the warehouse, and for us to step up and say, hey, look, like I see now that you're explaining it, I see there's a couple things that we need to tweak to be compliant, and we want to do that because we want to reopen this business. We just got a very opposite like reaction. Like they would come in very frequently and just, it's as if they had this joy of finding little things and then like we really felt like forced into this recall. And not a single person, we've been selling this product for 4 years. Not a single person's ever reached out about being ill. And why? Because a scientist told us straight up front why this product is actually more safe to consume than traditional jerky. And again, you can get into the science of it, but that has a lot to do with the surface area. And you bit into it, it's very thin.
Oh, it's very thin and crispy, and it is a chip.
Yeah.
I mean, you basically you added a new category into the food market.
So that I think that moment was a new moment for us where it's just like, first it was the carnivore dieters that would buy this product, and then like, you go out, there's a lot of hunters, outdoorsmen, people that are into keto, and then people that are into like working out, professional athletes and stuff. But then there's this pocket that found us during that time of people that, and this can go a little bit on, this could get into politics a little bit, but like there is a very passionate group of people who are rallying around food freedom. And that pocket was found. And so we just became a much stronger brand because of it. And now things are good with the ODA, and it's only like back to skyrocketing from here.
So how did Joe Rogan find you?
Joe Rogan, one day he started following us on Instagram. We got all giddy about it. At that very moment, I should have just reached out. Like clearly he was thinking about us, and I didn't. Because that also opened up the ability for DMs. Like I couldn't really DM him. I think you can, but it's just different. And 1 week later, gut punch. Dude shares our direct competitor, and his post says, legit AF. And no, actually, I think it actually said legit as fuck. And we were mopey. We were mopey for about 2 hours. And I said,
you were in your
what?
feelings.
Yep. I said, you know what? I'm going to respond to that story. And I'm just going to say, hey, when you want to try something that's a little bit different, and we're very familiar with this guy, there's a whole story to that. This dude, during the Kickstarter, tried to come in without telling us that he was starting his own brand that was making a competing product to be our co-packer. We worked with him for 6 months because in the beginning we considered co-packing. And then he sent us the wrong bag in a wrong sample bag that said Carnivore Crisps on it one day. This dude straight up tried to infiltrate the business. He asked for our Kickstarter list. He said he wanted to ship out all the product too.
Good luck. Like people who do good luck in the long game, right?
Shortcuts, right? And then what does he say when we catch him in the heat of the moment? He knew he was caught. And he said, I've just never been good at the marketing side. Well, and he came in and tried to get a whole list of thousands of people to sell to. So anyway, I respond, and I basically just say to him, when you want to try something a little bit different, texture is a lot different, and said, when you want to try the meat pastry usually works pretty well. just shoot me your address. And he responded to me and said, I don't exactly know what happened, but I was looking at your product. I saw an advertisement and I wanted to buy it. But something like I was on your website and I don't know. He said, something must have interrupted me. I said, don't worry about it. Just give me your address and I'll send you some product. And he did. He gave me his address. And when he got it, it was about a week later. He shared and he responded to me and he said, you're right. He goes, this is on another level, far superior to the other guys. And we blew up. I mean, we did a ton of sales from that. And he continued to engage quite frequently with me on Instagram. And there was just a moment where I was like, dude, this dude really loves it. Like, really loves it. And I'd always told Sylvia, we're going to bootstrap this and we're going to build this by ourselves and we don't want to take on investors. I don't like the culture of that. I don't. Worked in enough companies that the CEO and the founder clearly is under the pressure of investors, and we didn't want that. And we still don't, and we still don't have investors. But I was like, this is our fish. This is who we've loved for so long, who could be the biggest voice for this product. I was like, maybe we should just reach out and just ask, do you want to be a small partner in the company? And we did, and he said he was interested. And fast forward 10 months later, after working with his team and our team, we made it a reality. And so he is a small partner in the company with absolutely no expectations, and that's what makes our relationship phenomenal. I think that's why they wanted to work with us and why we want to work with them. He's a very authentic man. This is why people follow him and listen to him. So nobody comes to him saying, hey, you got to share once a month, you got to share this time, this. No. In your moment, you share when you want to, when it's authentic. By the way, something different that he does than most influencers and all that stuff, he bought the product. Thousands of dollars of product monthly.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't asking for us to ship him product. He was a customer. Outside of the one shipment that I sent him because he got interrupted, after that, he just continued to buy the product, and he's got this love and this passion for companies kind of starting out and stuff.
Yeah, and I love, he gets it on many levels, which is, I think, why people resonate with him. But yeah, if you see something you're passionate about and you're Joe Rogan and you can clearly afford it, buy it. Mm-hmm. You know, like, so many people are looking for freebies, especially like, it's like you've already made it. Like, if you see someone bootstrapping, the best way to support them is to buy the product. Yeah. But people, like, it's interesting.
It is.
The way that it works. So look at you low-key telling everybody that Joe Rogan's a part of the Carnivore Snax.
Yeah. I mean, I think at this point, it's not
big. Hey, NBD, no big deal.
we don't share it like too often, but I think that, it's not like we were told that we can't share it by any means. I think that he's proud to be involved.
Yeah, he should be.
It shows.
It's the meat pastry, baby.
It is.
Like having a steak in your pocket.
It is, and he's very passionate about meat, and he's very aware of the wrongful vilification of it. So that's what this is all about. That's what Carnivore Snax is about. We've got almost 50 employees at the warehouse. Not too far from here. We did $1 million year one, 3.6 year two, and then year three, 12.2. So
I mean, you're heading, the trajectory looks good from where I'm sitting.
Trajectory looks good.
So what's your diet look like?
I would probably say 60 to 70% of my caloric intake is meat. But I look at health beyond just food, and food is one of the primary, right? For me, it's about surrounding myself with friends. It's about being outside. And sometimes that means going out to get some pizza and some beer. I actually feel like is a net win as it pertains to my health. I used to be a lot more strict with my diet. Honestly, I stopped working out a long time ago just to really focus on business and stuff. It's been a goal of mine to get back into it for sure. But I'll never forget this trip that I went on. I was very strict with the diet, just super dialed in. wasn't feeling all that great. This wasn't when I was doing carnivore by any means. This was back during the Ritz Fit days. But I went on a trip to Florida, and I was doing everything that was like wrong, like, you know, drinking a lot and eating bar food every day. But I was like out, like playing like volleyball on the beach and stuff, and just I came home, I was like, God damn, like I really felt good and like powerful and healthy on that trip. And for me, it was just like I was putting so many hours into work, and it was draining me. And all my friends were there. It was at his wedding. And that's when I was like, you know what? Like, you better have your diet dialed in, but you ain't got to go 100% all in on something. Have friends, get outside. It's okay to eat, you know, something bad here and there. You know, I mean, it's pretty basic stuff, but yeah.
It is basic, but it's hard for people.
It is.
It really is.
Prioritize where we're seeing a shift, especially when we advertise. This works best for us. We're starting to see a shift away from, you know, keto, away from paleo, away from carnivore, and what it's becoming is priority protein, the most powerful macronutrient on the planet. How do I just get more protein in? Because protein is what's making people healthy. That's why Carnivore Snax does so well. I mean, shoot, chicken sliders have over 100 grams in one bag. You can just eat the bag in a day. You've got yourself over 100 grams, convenient protein. And I think that mindset allows you to kind of get the stress down as it relates, right, to diet. Prioritize protein, have fun, be active. You probably got a pretty good recipe there.
Yeah. I just had a thought.
What was that?
Do you want to do a cameo spot on my show?
Yeah. Absolutely.
See how I'm you notice
I would
how
love
I'm
to drive down here and have conversations.
You notice how I'm hooking you in? First it's the beer mile.
Yeah.
Now it's a cameo on my show. Next thing you know, I mean, you're in the fold now.
I'm sold.
Carnivore Snax in the
I'm
fold.
easy.
Do you have any vegan friends, or is that a hard no?
I don't have any vegan friends, and I do jokingly, but not jokingly. I make it sound like a joke in all of the interviews for people coming on the Carnivore Snax. I do ask if they're vegan.
You're like, I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican. I don't care about a lot of things, but are you vegan?
Yeah.
That is my...
Because it usually is not going to work out.
So I take it you don't have a Kale University sweatshirt.
Nope. There's a lot of good meat pun shirts out there for sure that I should probably get more of those.
Oh my God, this has been fun. On that note, Mark, thank you so much for coming. I know you're busy. You're busy running an empire. You have so much going on. So I appreciate you taking 60 minutes for little old me.
Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. And if you're still out there following your girl, follow me on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, eat some meat. Go get the meat pastry and keep moving, baby.
You got it.